on the night train, bottoms up. I'm on the night train, fill my cup. I'm on the night train, ready to crash and burn. I never learn. I'm on the night train. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair where the Mad Hatter showed up, took a look around and said, forget this, I'm going back to where things make more sense. How you doing?
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah?
Wonderful till we start talking issues.
How could you not be doing wonderful in this day and age and place in which we live?
Well, and how about the wonderful weather we're having? I mean, we had a global warming front come through a few days ago.
Yeah.
Drop rain in the middle of freaking February. I mean, just the global warming front just went right out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even buy an electric car in the meantime or anything like that. By the way,
yes,
I'm going to guess the song, and I'm pretty sure
good.
I'm going to be right.
Yeah.
It's because it's one of those heavy metal bands. It's either Motley Crue or Guns N' Roses, and I'm going to say it's Guns N' Roses.
Yes.
Okay.
Night Train from Guns N' Roses.
I get them mixed up sometimes.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Choo 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 today. It's
now
yes.
refresh my memory. That's the Axl guy, right?
Yeah.
It's not Six Nicky.
Right.
He's in
the other one.
Motley
yeah.
Crue.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
See how hip I am with
That's
pop culture?
Yeah.
There's
flows off your tongue like a babbling brook.
It's incredible pop culture. There's Madonna. There's Whitney Houston.
Yeah. You got all of them. The Shirelles.
That's right. Dion and the Belmonts.
Yeah.
Or whoever it is. What's the other one? I'll think of it. Okay. Bill Haley in the comics.
Yeah,
That's
is that the other one?
We used to have a friend who had a haircut like him.
Frankie
it's called
Valli.
Bill Haley.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
Jay, question for you.
Yes.
Serious question here. By the way, we all picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl.
Yes,
Remember
we
when
did.
Nick and I was on my show and they actually won?
That's good.
For sure, I thought they were going to lose since we picked them.
Right.
But they didn't. So
Well, I'm glad.
So I was right for once.
Philadelphia, you get what you got, and that's because you got lousy fans and John Fetterman. So
Do they have lousy fans? I don't know what
they
what's
do.
the big deal about the fans.
Do you remember when the Vikings were playing them in the playoffs? Was it the
year they creamed us?
Yeah, and their fans were throwing full beer cans at our fans before the game.
No, I don't.
Oh, you didn't hear about that? Yeah. They were throwing full beer cans, hitting people in the head.
Really? I mean,
Yeah.
at least drink it first. God, it's like $10 a beer at the game. Why take it? Why buy it and toss it?
I don't know. That and, it doesn't matter whether they win or lose. They're like setting cars on fire and, it's... Yeah,
well, it's Philly. You
know.
can destroy it. That's all right.
I don't know.
Leave the Rocky Balboa statue
Absolutely.
up there.
You touch that, we're going to have a problem.
That's right. Or them steps, wherever them steps are that
that
used to run up.
That, Liberty Bell, leave that alone.
That's true. There's some nice where the Phillies play. There's some nice baseball statues out there that I would like left alone.
Yeah.
But everything else in Philly, leave me a few cheesesteaks and you can burn the damn thing down. It's
It's all right. I'll go to Steak Escape. I'll be happy.
Jay, you're happy with anything deep fried or anything like that? Let's just be honest, right?
I am. I haven't had anything deep fried in
What time is it? Yeah.
almost a week.
What?
Yes. Almost. Not quite. but
Almost. So what? You got 6 days to go?
No. I am taking a month off.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Your wife will be happy to know. My salad today was actually a salad.
Oh my goodness! Vegetables and everything.
It had spinach. It had green olives. It had
Okay, olives are nasty. Can I just say olives are
they're
nasty?
fantastic. It had
God.
green onion in it.
God.
It had
You probably eat mushrooms too.
I do. Yes. Yes. No, I haven't. I've been eating. I made an egg bake that had black olives and mushrooms and onions and stuff like that in it. That's been fantastic.
Black olives in eggs.
Yes.
It's like putting ketchup on steak.
No.
Gotcha.
No, that's terrible. That's a terrible idea. I did that when I was 8.
Of course.
Yes.
Steak sauce was too tangy when you were young. And
I don't use steak sauce either.
I like steak sauce. My wife puts the right amount of whatever she puts. I do the perfect grilling. She does the perfect prepping. We're a good team with that.
I put Lowry's on it.
Yeah, Lowry's
put it on the grill. That's it. Perfect steak.
All right.
No.
Okay, if anybody has video evidence of Jay eating a salad with vegetables on it, let's bring it over. You'll be well.
I'll have to send you a picture.
You'll be well compensated for it.
Yeah. I'll have to send you a picture. And then you can.
I want to see you. I want a video.
Show Molly.
I want you actually eating it. Okay.
I can do that.
Not photoshopping something. You just.
Oh my word.
All right, Jay. Off your eating habits.
Yeah.
What the hell's been going on with all these things in the sky the last few weeks? Did any land in Roswell? I just wonder if they landed in Roswell.
I don't think so because.
Well, what in tarnation is it?
Well, we know what the first one was. The first one was a spy balloon from China. And it has come out that they not only knew about this from the guy that first saw it in Montana, as they watched it track across the nation, they not only knew about this when it entered Alaskan airspace.
Okay, but wait a minute.
They knew about this when it left China.
Okay, but
they followed it since China and did nothing.
Okay, but let me ask a question. So this is a balloon doing what?
It's a spy balloon. Of course, China says it's a weather balloon, but
I know. I believe
there were a number of these that went out. One went out over the U.S. One went out over Latin America.
The Chinese, their word is as good as a milk bucket under a bull. I know that I don't believe anything they say. But question being,
yes,
at how is the balloon? Is like a hot air balloon? Is it like tracking digitally?
No, it's like I think it's helium. I don't. It's not hot air. Okay.
Well, somebody'd have to minister the hot air.
Right. And so it was helium filled. I think it's designed like a weather balloon or whatever.
It's like a blimp or something?
Something like that. Although that uses hot air, doesn't it? A blimp.
Does.
Some of them use hydrogen, in fact, right? The Zeppelins, and that's where we get like the Hindenburg and why that was such a big disaster. But the balloon had, I don't know, that of course they're not telling us anything yet, but it was carrying what they say. It was really shocking at first because the guy from the Pentagon was like, it has a payload. Well, usually you think of that in terms of like, oh, it's carrying weapons. Well, I don't think that was it. It was, gathering intel, and most likely gathering intel, sending it back to China and erasing it immediately. So we're not going to find anything on it.
Can't they just look on Google Maps?
Yes, but this is the thing. They do. And they can get anything they need. But what they're testing is our will. They're testing, are we going to do anything about it? How quickly are we going to do anything about it? And they learned a whole heck of a lot. But
doesn't this affect like our airspace?
Absolutely.
Could a small plane have hit this or something? I mean,
heck, some
went all the way to South Carolina. I mean, that's a long time to.
It was up a little too high to like shoot from the ground, and there was some worry, I think, from some people that this could be a test run to see if they can get an EMP, electromagnetic pulse device into our airspace, to screw up all of our technology and all of that, burn out our electrical grids. So there was some worry about that. But we are getting tested repeatedly. Things that we hadn't heard. It was slightly before this first event, this weather balloon came, that it was reported by the Coast Guard that there was one. They found one Russian spy ship off of the coast of Hawaii. Turns out, there was a number of Russian spy ships off the coast of Hawaii, and they were trying to evade our radar and our sensors to test. Again, how quickly do they pick us up? What do they do? What kind of evasive action do they take? Russian, was it one or was it more?
It's Putin.
Planes that were intercepted near the coast of Alaska just yesterday. So we're getting tested by these two. They are in league with each other. They're forming a new axis.
They like each other, and they're eager to outshine each other.
Right, but they are forming a new partnership, a new access power. Just like China met with the leader of Iran for the first time this week as well. So they're bringing together the people that they want in their access power, and meanwhile we're stuck with Europeans and it's kind of funny that all this happened about the time that, and I mean with the following three incidents, happened about the time that there were rumors going around that we bombed the Nord Stream pipeline.
Yes, I've heard rumors.
And that rumor has gone away. Oh,
amazing.
Wow,
yeah.
Amazing. I'm not saying that we bombed it, but there's not a whole lot of countries that could. I mean, Zimbabwe didn't do it. Papua New Guinea didn't do it.
I would say that there's maybe less than 10 that are capable.
You've got the U.S., you've got France, you've got England, you've got Russia, you've got China.
You could have a handful of others, especially if they have nuclear capability.
Yeah.
Pakistan has it. I don't think they did it.
They probably don't have the elite diver force to be able to go do it, though.
I don't think they have a special ops or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, you have a handful of countries, and that's pretty much all. And even France, I would question, because they're not a military power anymore.
And they receive Russian oil.
Yeah, so
why would they freeze out their people?
Yeah, England is probably the only country that's truly independent in Western Europe anyway. Eastern Europe's a little different.
Right.
But, I don't know who. There's not many. I'll tell you what. And there's and again, the whole thing of just not telling the truth. This is where I come back to. The more you lie, the more incompetent you are, the more of a boob you are, and the further you go in Washington. And I'm just telling you that I think it will be years before the true story that we ever happens, we ever know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Congress just had a intelligence committee hearing on some of this.
Which is a contradiction in terms.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, the Republicans led this one, and they could not get any answers out of the administration at all.
Well,
so go figure.
Okay, here's how you get answers.
Yeah.
We're going to hold up funding for every damn thing you want.
Yeah.
Okay? We're going to shut the government. We don't care anymore. Screw next year's election. You want to go play politics, go play politics. If I don't know that the Republicans have the votes to do this, because this is a dramatic step, and they have, a 14-seat majority or 12 or something like that.
Not a lot.
I don't know that they have the votes. But, I mean, I would sit there and I'd say, look, you're getting nothing till you sit down and you answer this stuff.
Yeah.
It can be in closed doors at first if it has to be, okay? But you're not going to stall your way. These people serve us. And if they're going to shoot stuff down or let Chinese things go across the country, I'm sorry, we deserve an answer as to why that's happening or what happened.
Right.
I mean, other than President Biden was, getting his diaper changed. Okay? I mean, there's a level of incompetence here that is just they never cease to amaze me. Every day they top it. It gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And we'll get into more in a minute. But I mean, it's just
grand incompetence on every level. I mean, I was thinking about this. A lot of our presidents, or some of them, we come up with names for the kind of term that they had. George Washington, the indispensable man, right? Mm-hmm. You had Abraham Lincoln, the great uniter.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Joe Biden is the dystopian president. He's leading America into dystopia, into the worst nightmare that I think you could ever think. I mean, whether it is government overreach, just name it, whether it is ruining our economy, ruining our power supply, ruining our gas reserves.
Energy independence.
Yeah, energy independence, whether It is
Yeah,
our foreign relations with other countries.
He couldn't do a better job if he was doing it on purpose.
Inflation, food supply, national security. What isn't he destroying? Our speech, our ability, our border, the ability for us to speak in terms of black and white, like this is a man, this is a woman. All of it is just.
It's true. He's being aided and abetted by a lot of people as well. I mean, you can't do this by himself.
Yeah, and going in and causing social media companies to censor certain people based on their political beliefs and to infiltrate with the FBI and to track. This is dystopian stuff.
How about we, like I said before, how about we rename that J. Edgar Hoover building for that pervert?
That would be good. Let's start there.
You talk about a guy in American history that deserves a very bad place, in my opinion.
Problem is, they'll probably rename it to the Jeffrey Epstein building.
Why not? Hey, there's another crime that the media somehow is absent for. Cover that Chris Watts case wall to wall, though. Hey, boy, do that.
Yeah,
anything that
the Murdoch case, that's important to national interests.
The only good thing about it, the only good thing about today, though, is when you think about, I think about the cases that the media orgasmed on, like in the 90s, whether it was O.J. Simpson, whether it was John Benet Ramsey, whatever. At least today, they can go do that, and I don't have to. I can still go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, even though they outnumber us, they do. But I can still go somewhere else. If I want to be willfully deaf to that stuff, I can be willfully deaf.
Yeah.
And that's
it's easy enough.
It's the only solace I have.
You just shut it off. And a lot of Americans are just shutting it off.
But that's bad in a lot of ways, too.
Yeah. We don't know what's going on.
I mean, to just put on your headphones and listen to construction music or listen to, Vanilla Ice or whatever. I mean, that and shutting yourself off to the world's not smart either. So I don't know. It's just
but I mean, they've destroyed it on purpose, so that Americans would tune out and they could do whatever they want.
Well, the truth is, though, Jay, our government is so big, so vast, it's in every nook and cranny of our lives that nobody can follow it all. I mean, by the time you realize what's going on, things are 20 years down the road. I mean, we've talked about that locally where, these plants have been there since 2007. Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, they're always plotting and planning the next coup or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know. I just think, I like I said before, it's hopeless. We all might as well buy Greek bonds. I mean, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what's going to turn anything around, especially in our media. I don't know. I can't think of anything that can turn around our mainstream media.
No, not the mainstream media. They've just got to go the way of the dinosaur because people aren't watching anymore.
The only thing that can happen to ruin it is that somehow I still think with the viewership and stuff, it still outdoes. At some point, I would only let alternative media in to talk to me.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm governor, I'm going to think about this, whether I want Channel 5 in there. I mean, I don't know that I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to shut people out either, but I don't want their spin on what I do and say to be the only thing people hear.
Yeah.
So you'd have to intentionally go gather a bunch of podcasters and people look down on, well, the media people do look down on people like us. But my answer to that is you go make them legitimate.
Yeah.
You make them legitimate. Why isn't in the White House only ABC? And when did the Huffington Post become some sort of news outlet like their news or Bloomberg? When did that happen? Why are these elites the only people that can go talk to the president of the United States or their spokespeople?
Because that's the way they want it. They have their own little social club, and you have to be able to play the game, Andrew. And for people that aren't willing to play the game, this is where we're at in America. Yeah. You have the elites and you have everybody else. And let me tell you this, if you're everybody else, now is the time to shut these things off. Now is the time to not go to the advertisers of these conglomerates, Yeah, and instead turn on a local podcast. Instead, read articles from like Alpha News or publications that are actually printing real news. And
printing what the mainstream media won't do. They don't do the work anymore.
Oh no, and especially I think I mentioned on the last podcast where you have like BuzzFeed that decided that they're not going to hire writers anymore. It's all going to come through Chat GPT. So it's all going to be AI writing these articles because it's so good at it. Nobody's going to know the difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scary world we live in, Jay. I'll tell you, it just is.
Yes, it is.
Not knowing, I don't even want to contemplate that. That's worse than a digital currency.
Right.
All right. You people have heard on the news, maybe you have, because there's not been a lot of coverage of this, so maybe I should say that, about this derailment, this 150 cars train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Now, when I first heard that there was a train derailment in East Palestine, I was wondering if that was going to ignite another Israeli-Palestinian conflict here. I didn't realize that was a town in Ohio.
Yes.
No offense on you people who live there or gone through there, but I didn't know where that was. I still don't know where it is in Ohio, actually. I never looked it up.
Yeah.
But 50 cars derailed with toxic chemicals in them. One of the chemicals was actually used in World War I to gas the Germans used it, those dang sneaky Germans, because I can say that, being 50% German myself, on the Somme River in Verdun, France.
Yeah.
So this is dangerous stuff. And apparently the Suffolk Norfolk or whatever the rail company is, I'm butchering that. And it's not even a foreign word. I'm still butchering it. Apparently they actually burned this supposedly as a way to contain it.
Yeah.
This happened February 3rd, and the torching of it, I guess, happened today, is mind-boggling. Now, if you know our government, maybe it's not. Mm-hmm. But the idea, Jay, that dangerous chemicals like this.
Just for a moment, for the listeners, East Palestine is real close to Youngstown, not too far from Akron and Cleveland and Pittsburgh. It's due east, more or less, a little northeast of Canton, Ohio.
Really?
You know where that
the
is.
Football.
So, yes. So it is on a creek that feeds the Ohio River, which goes down, and eventually is on the border of Ohio and Kentucky.
Very close to the Pennsylvania
Feeds into
border.
the Mississippi and into the Gulf. So,
God, look at that.
yeah. So yes, that is where it lays. Where it lies. Yes.
Yeah. Now, so the town was evacuated.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was. People were told they could go
Unevacuated,
back like a
yes.
day or two later, and now all of a sudden there are dead animals and the dead fish in the creeks, and there's tons of worry. There's no answers that these people are getting. My favorite thing was that the EPA.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the EPA of Ohio. I know every state has their own
Right.
chapter of this.
Like yours is the Minnesota Pollution
Right.
Control Agency.
Said,
Yes.
yeah. Hey, go ahead and drink the water. No big deal. We can't find anything. But yet animals and stuff are ending up dead. And it's like, what? Go ahead and brew that coffee. Don't worry about it.
They haven't tested the soil yet. They haven't tested the groundwater.
It's been 2 weeks. Okay? Shouldn't take that long. You know what was in there. You should know what to test for.
Right.
So it shouldn't be that hard.
But they haven't sent anybody to test. That's the problem.
Well, what the hell's going on?
I don't know.
Okay, but stop for a second.
Yeah.
Here. Let me just back up a second, Jay, about what happens in emergency preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I mean, what happens when a disaster happens? Who's in charge? Because this is one of the screwed up,
Right.
Things that happens between this horse manure with jurisdiction and who's in charge of what, and so on and so forth. What happened? Now, the railroads technically are federal,
Yes.
right? I mean, you're interstate. You're
They're private, but yeah, there's they have contracts with the federal government that allow them to really trump any kind of county government or anything like that.
right. So they can come in and just take over what they want to. That's why don't we just call them the FBI? They're the FBI. Okay, if they want to come in and ransack something, they can. Flash their badge, and you local hick people are out of here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but I mean, like the water is there a Met Council over there that is in charge of that? Their watershed. They got a meeting tomorrow.
I would assume that there are watersheds over there, and then that's something I can look up. But here's the thing. I mean, you've got. Here's kind of how it breaks down. We know if something happens in a city and it's localized to a city, the city government handles it as far as emergency management. Now, if it's bad enough, you'll see the county step in, or if it's in the
Usually
townships,
just as backup.
yeah,
but,
if it's in the townships, the county will take it. If it's a little wider area, like a watershed area, you might see the county then step in that instance. If it's even wider, and here where you might have these toxins going down the river further, and it might be intra-county, then you're going to have a state government that gets involved in that. But in this instance, because of the railroad, you need to have the federal government step in, because the federal government, the Transportation Administration, should be stepping in because they regulate the railroads.
Who do we have in charge of that?
Pete?
Oh,
Buttigieg.
Mayor Pete.
Mayor Pete.
You got a man in charge of infrastructure in this country who could change a flat tire, but he's in charge. But of course, once again, folks, remember Washington, the worse you are,
Right.
the more you get. See, Pete checks the boxes. He's gay. That's the big
Right.
thing. So we got to find a job for him. And here, I go back to this. Shouldn't there be minimum qualifications to be in charge of something?
There should be,
should
especially for an important job like that.
Well, and sometimes hiring somebody from an industry is not always the best choice. Sometimes
Right.
a critic is the best choice, so on and so forth.
But this guy isn't anything.
But what bothers me is I don't know what qualifies Mayor Pete to run transportation in this country. Until a few days ago, he thought the biggest problem we had was we didn't have enough we had too many white construction workers.
Right.
He actually said that
after this already happened, and should have been talking about this.
He actually was asked about it and acted like he didn't know. So,
yeah.
I mean, really?
And then followed it up, was it today, by saying that thousand of these happen a year.
Yeah, I know.
And totally downplayed it. So yeah, it's crazy. I don't even know where to begin with that kind of, it's stupidity. It's
but again, I come back to, so if you've got somebody running something that really is, I mean, he's there. He's a political appointment. He was a rival, if you want to call him I don't know if he was a serious contender for president or not. Basically, he really on paper, if Pete Buttigieg applied for this job somewhere, there's no way he would have gotten it.
yeah.
So people under him, there's a lot of agencies and career people that have all been there. So I'm not going to put everything on Mr. Pete here, but ultimately he gives the orders.
Yeah.
So
He does, people from the Transportation Administration are not going to go to check this out without him saying, "Okay, I'm sending you guys to go check this out."
Okay, so should that should have happened? See, this is my thing. If it was a car derailment, why didn't that happen? This happened on February 3rd. Why didn't that happen on February 4th?
Yeah, that's a great question.
What was he doing?
Sure
What's he
would
been
like to
doing?
know.
What was he doing in those days? What was more important than a car derailment on, that where all these toxic chemicals and 50 cars are burning? What could have been more important for Mayor Pete to be doing?
Nothing. There is nothing that is more important for him to be doing.
What was the President of the United States doing?
Nothing.
I know he goes to bed at 4:30, but I mean,
Yeah.
how is it possible that this has gone from bad to worse to worse? Now people there are reporting being sick. They're reporting throwing up. They're reporting pets getting sick. Clearly something is going on here, and nobody's talking to them.
Right. Yeah. Nobody. These people are scared. These people are, that they're having to send their kids to school. They are having to try and live life as normal. They're all drinking bottled water. They're having to pay for their own bottled water.
Well, and I'll say something else too. I mean, what happens to this city? What happens to businesses in this city? What happens to the residents' homes?
Yeah.
I mean, this could destroy a city.
Right.
Could destroy the whole region for decades to come. This could create a ghost town.
Yeah.
Now, I have some theories, Jay, on why the Biden administration doesn't care about this.
Yes.
And why the media doesn't care either. I mean, CNN covered it for 5 minutes, and then they went back to talking about, getting rid of Christmas or whatever. I don't know. But, I mean, the point is, if this happened in New York, this would be the only thing the media would be covering.
Yeah.
If this happened in a black neighborhood, and I'm glad I don't want it to happen in any neighborhood.
Right.
But if it happened, where the victims were minorities, or the victims were Me Too survivors, or the victims were non-binary, transgendered, blue-haired lesbians, there'd be boxes to check there.
Right.
And there'd be a totally different, we'd be hearing about the inequities of this country and how horribly racist this country is, and that we just don't have enough handouts for everyone here, and we have to do more. We have to do more, and it just, these people are. By the way, this is not a rich town.
Small. It's blue collar. It's not. There are a lot of poor people there.
Right. So I mean, the truth being that it. I don't care what color they are. They're American citizens, and they are in danger. There's just no question about it. But I just think because the narrative isn't there that the mainstream media is interested in.
Right.
You're not going to get the kind of round-the-clock, passionate coverage if they could create a story out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's true. There is definitely a story to be told. It's just that it doesn't jive with where the federal government is trying to make progress, quote unquote. We would see it as moving backwards or falling off a cliff. But it interests me that the state of Ohio, even Governor Mike DeWine, is not doing anything at this point.
DeWine told them all to go home.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, here's something maybe our listeners would be interested in. Looking at the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, it's epa.ohio.gov. On there, you can submit a complaint to report violations and environmental complaints. Maybe they're just waiting for that to come through. Or you can call the Spill Hotline at 1-800-282-9378. report a spill, release, or any other environmental emergency in your area. So maybe they just haven't heard yet. And maybe our listeners could help them out by filing a complaint and or calling the spill hotline. And maybe then somebody would show up and do something. I mean, they barely even mention this on their... It is the top story, East Palestine train derailment and information regarding environmental sampling and testing in the area. So that's the only reference to this on their entire website.
But again, after 2 weeks, shouldn't we have those results? Shouldn't there be any warning to the people downstream of this? What's the town?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania should be involved in this. Sorry, but they should be. You can like or not like the state. There's innocent people who live there. And, okay, they elected John Fetterman. But, I mean, there's a lot of places that, could potentially be influenced in this. Is there any phone calls being made? Any, interstate communication? Any... it just seems like everybody's so passive and ho-hum about it.
Yeah, well, they have the information on their website,
Okay, well, we're in the information age. We're in an age of instant news.
And they don't show up to a town hall meeting,
Can we just say our government doesn't care?
Yeah. I mean, the mayor was there. I mean, to his credit, right? He was there.
The mayor's on an island. I mean,
yeah.
What's
he's wondering where everybody else is.
He's a mayor of 4,000, a town of 4,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, is it, hey, buddy, get a shovel and clean it up yourself?
I know.
I don't know the mayor at all. I don't know his name. I'm just saying, the mayor's probably round the clock been trying, if I had to guess,
Yeah.
So it's just...
But when nobody shows up...
I shouldn't laugh, but I mean, you think about it though, Jay, and I think about this could happen anywhere. I mean, this could happen in any town. I think the only way this, by the way, I'm going to say one way this gets significant media coverage now. Mm-hmm. You know what that is?
What?
If somehow capitalism can be blamed.
Yeah.
If somehow this company can get the blame. Look, accidents happen. I don't know what happened here. This is not the first train to derail. I don't know why it happened. I have no idea. But if somehow this company can be blamed, or we're going to see where they put campaign donations. What do you want to bet?
They will not be blamed, Andrew.
You don't think so?
A photograph came out today of the CEO of this company standing with Pete Buttigieg.
Oh, okay.
So they're buddies.
Was he a white guy too? Where's the representation of the country here?
I know. It's a shame. If the CEO was not white, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
It's possible. I don't know. in an alternate universe, I'm sure the CEO knew how to run the train. But you think about, Jay, the chaos that could happen. I mean, remember when we had the floods up in the Red River? I can't remember in the 90s. I can't remember what year it was really bad.
Yeah, I think it was the Red River Valley.
98, maybe. Yeah. Does that sound right? I mean,
maybe. Yeah.
Again, what happens in the jurisdiction there? I mean, what you got two states.
Yeah.
Okay, a river is not exactly local.
Right.
Yet, how do you administer the whole? Say there's an oil spill somewhere.
Yeah.
Who which the media would cover. Remember BP? The
Yeah.
media would cover that round the clock.
Right.
So, I mean, is that?
I mean, that, I think, being out in the ocean is a federal issue. If there was an oil spill in the middle of the country, it would probably be, there would have to be a federal and state joint thing going on because, again, the rail, it comes under the Federal Transportation Administration. Well, I don't know. if what was what'd you ask before that? I had something I was gonna say.
I've already forgotten.
Oh,
Rewind the tape and we'll.
Yeah, well, but I mean that's the thing. You have trains that are running stuff across the country all the time. I mean, it's an
Trains,
important
trucks, everything.
It's vastly important to our supply lines and everything else, and so they're constantly running. Thing is, do we know that companies aren't cutting corners and things like that? Because that's when accidents happen. That's when lives get endangered or people get killed.
Or drivers.
But it can't be about, this is a failure of capitalism. We can't have that because it's not true. Now, it might be a failure of that
human error
person, to not do the safety checks. It might be a failure of the engineer to fall asleep at the switch or whatever, but we have a government that is trying to tear down anything that stands in the way of globalism and
individualism.
Yeah, anything that promotes individualism, anything that promotes freedom, that stands up for our rights.
It's collectivization. I mean, it's collectivization if you want to look at it in a crude way.
Right, and as long as you have, I'm sure, I haven't looked at the lobbying money, and maybe I should, all of the lobbying money that go, and the campaign donations that go from the, Burlington, Northern Santa Fe, from this rail company here, I'm sure it's astronomical.
Yeah, and I'm sure it goes both ways. I mean, I'm sure they back whoever they think's going to win.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of that corporate money goes.
Norfolk Southern.
That's
the name of this one.
I would have no idea. Even I put Norfolk Southern and I butchered it.
Yeah.
I will say this though. I think if capitalism can be blamed and government can grandstand here, which is what I would expect to see over the next few months, is a lot of grandstanding, second guessing, that kind of thing. I think that's how they get out from under their own incompetence. The incompetent people. Yeah. It's kind of like the art expert who forges a Matisse. The museum hires him to see if it's a Matisse. Of course, he says it's a Matisse. He authenticates his own forgery. Same thing here. The federal government that's failing is the federal government that's going to be in charge of the next thing.
Right.
So, I mean, Pete Buttigieg, the same guy who, thinks the biggest problem we have is too many white people in construction, is going to be in charge of the next disaster. And I tell you what, is it just possible that we have just way too many agencies and way too many, it's like we have too many chiefs and not enough Indians. There's just, how many organizations do you need, from FEMA to the National Guard to Sheriff's Department? They all have a role. I mean, I'm not saying they all should be eliminated. But
I can think of a few that should be.
I can think of,
Department of Education.
Well, okay. You're going to go there. DNR here in Minnesota. I mean, there's a few I'd like to see gone. Or maybe just, like The Rock says, know your role. But is there too much? What would help these people in East Palestine is one central place that they can go to get all their questions answered and all of the administration being done. It shouldn't be the Ohio EPA and the EPA. Okay? Yeah. It shouldn't be FEMA and the local, whoever it is. I mean, why can't there be one place where there's no... We're in a day and age where everything's at your fingertips. Every information you want is right here.
Yeah.
So why is it so hard? Why do these people not know what they're supposed to be doing?
Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? There's, I think, such gross incompetence in government that They can't. They can't get it situated. And you have the state government fighting with the federal government. You have the county government fighting with the state government. You have the local governments fighting with the county government.
So in other words, the hell with these people. Mm-hmm. You know,
just a bunch of preening peacocks. Yeah, you know.
So we're gonna have a little cat fight between the locals and I just I'm concerned for these folks. I'm concerned for the people around them. I'm concerned how far this goes, and I'm concerned about the next one. You don't know where the next one's going to be,
right?
And you don't know. I don't know who's running what. Who's running what? Who runs the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency?
I'm sure I could find out.
Yeah, but who the hell is it? So one
I
of
would have
Walls'
no idea.
buddies? I mean...
Well, yeah, he makes the appointments.
So, I mean...
He appoints to that. He appoints
another Chad Malcolm in charge? I mean, is that what it is?
Yeah. I would assume, it... As we've seen with the DFL and Democrats at large,
and Republicans
do it too, where it's they make these political appointments where somebody's underqualified for something. Now Republicans do it less based on you check these boxes, you're in.
But
it's
we all
more
know,
like,
we all
hey,
know
you were my buddy.
Politicians reward each other.
Yeah. Yeah, so at least usually, even though
I would
there's
argue,
some nepotism in there, that at least it's someone who's a little more qualified for the job when they do it.
I would argue, though, that there's a lot of Republicans who check boxes, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Republicans who think X amount of women have to be in a cabinet or X amount of...
They want to try and look good in the Democrats' eyes.
They do. So
they're never going to like you. But they're never going to like you.
I know.
So why? Why not just do it right the first time?
Well, again, and if you want to say, okay, I'd like to find a qualified woman or a qualified minority to do this job, I still don't understand why skin color or gender, I don't see that as a job qualification, but I do think that the right does this too. I mean, again, not to the extent, but, I think it is, if you're going to appoint people based on box checking, how else do you explain Kamala Harris? You're going to have incompetence at any level.
Yeah.
It's unavoidable.
Well, it is unavoidable because of the size of the government.
Yeah.
When you hire that many bureaucrats, you are going to run into people that are lazy, people that don't care, people that are bad at their job, even if they're trying. You're going to run into cheaters. You'll have your decent employees as well, but you're going to have that because of the size of your departments. You have to pare it down.
Yeah. Well, and again, but here's the thing: the way to pare it down is to do less and have less government, or have government do the job that it was intended to do.
Right.
Again, when government's in every nook and cranny, it's impossible to pare down.
Absolutely. But when you have federal regulations over everything and county regulations over everything and state regulations over everything and local ordinances, you've got 4 layers, sometimes 5 with regional government of regulations that everybody's stepping over themselves to try and implement. And it's ridiculous. You're going to have waste. You're going to have incompetence, gross incompetence, duplication, and there's just no way for it to be done efficiently or well.
Okay, so how do we get government, Jay, to, like, I use this example all the time. I use roads as the best example I can think of.
Yeah.
Of intermingling government you could use education, you could use other things. You're the county government. Okay, you fix the county roads.
Yep.
You don't touch nothing else.
Right.
You take my tax dollars I wrote to the county and use it for county roads.
Right.
Okay. See, state government, you take that money and you use it for state highways, what they call trunk highways, which link to highways. Blah, blah, blah. And local governments, you fix your own roads in your city. We're not going to hand out stuff. You figure it out. You fix your own. See, that's the kind of vision that I'd like to see.
Yeah.
And how do we get government? I see the problem is that the state and federal governments have so much money that they literally, especially the federal government, because they can just print it, that to a degree, you're never going to go back to something like that because there's always the free money to go get.
Right.
You know, and we all know enough people aren't going to say no. They may want to. They may try to. We'll have to pay this for this in taxes, or else we'll get it from somewhere else. We'll call it free. We'll put it into the bonding bill.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, how do you, I don't even know what step one is to unravel that.
Yeah, well.
And when you talk about emergency, it's the same thing. The county is contracted here. This city has a fire department. This city doesn't. So they've got the county doing this, and then it goes in the city and the county. So they're both there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, I don't even know where to. It's almost like we fly by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming the individuals that are doing, I'm not blaming firefighters. I'm not blaming,
Right.
I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying I don't even know where you start to unravel the layers of this.
Yeah. It's become unnecessarily complicated. I mean, really, the federal government should be limited to the things that are in the Constitution. No more, no less.
Yeah,
It
see,
should
now,
be
I'm okay.
that simple.
I'm okay with that because the Constitution's old. It was written by slaveholders.
Whatever.
I'm all right with that.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they can grow a
You're
little bit. The Constitution grows, it expands, it gets burped.
Gaslighter.
I mean, yes. I mean, it's just, come on, this ain't the 1850s anymore. Come on, Jay. I mean, get with the program here.
Word. Anyways, everything else should be left to the states.
But
Yes.
let me say something about that. The duties in the Constitution, I mean, we've this has been touched on. I'm curious to get your take on this.
Okay.
Interpreting it loosely or strictly.
Strictly.
We've had this debate since Hamilton and Jefferson.
Right.
There are things in the Constitution that are implied, I would argue. I think that that's true. And I think not many, okay?
Yeah.
But my dad used to tell me, I'm a Marine, and the Marines weren't in the Constitution. So tell me, so I mean, it like I said, where do you start to unravel it? Let's assume Congress is never going to do this. Okay, I think that's a safe assumption.
Right.
I mean, they take an oath to something that most of them haven't read and don't understand.
Yes.
So I mean, you and I have a reverence to the Constitution, but most people don't. Most people couldn't recite the First Amendment. I mean, they'd say, "Honor thy mother and father." But they just can't.
that'd be a little too controversial.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Honor parent one and parent two. Okay, so I mean,
I was talking the honor word would be a little
Oh,
controversial.
okay.
I mean, but you're right. We'd have to take those pronouns out, or those titles out. Those are a little too gender specific.
well, that's true.
Yes.
That's true. So, the point being, do local governments, if they're subject to the federal and the state coming in and just telling them what to do, or maybe the local governments don't have the resources,
Yeah.
how can they unravel from the top down way we do business?
The states have got to get better about pushing back on the federal government, for one. They have got to stop taking the free money. They have got to start, defending their power as a state to operate freely under all things that don't fit into the Constitution. Now, then it's up to each state to figure out, okay, what are the duties of the state versus the county versus the local, and I think this is, why America is so great. You have the laboratory of democracy, right? That you're able to kind of figure these things out as you go, and not everywhere is the same. But I would like to personally see it where, the most power is at the local level, and you have a state setting up a loose association of counties, and the county then a loose associations of townships and cities, and having the townships and the cities kind of figure out their own business. I think the highest taxes should be at the local level, and the smallest taxes should be at the federal level.
I'm paying the highest taxes everywhere.
Yeah,
I
know.
just started my taxes last week, and I'm really upset.
Yeah.
Very angry.
It is. Everywhere is high. Everywhere is wanting more. Everywhere, it's never enough.
And yet the job they do gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
Whether that's education, whether that's emergency response, whether that's foreign policy.
Yeah.
Nothing seems to turn around. Nothing seems to get better.
Maybe we should report the government to the Better Business Bureau because they're not following through on
maybe
our
I
investments.
could give a complaint to Pete Buttigieg is emitting CO2 while he's talking. Maybe the pollution agency in Ohio will take note of that.
Somebody get some duct tape.
Ugh. Needs more than duct tape. But I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I just come back to, when you see something like this, so often you see the best in people.
Yeah.
When there's people helping I go back to things I witnessed, or I didn't witness them. I saw them on TV. But take Joplin, Missouri, when the tornadoes just destroyed the whole town. There was a great job done by, I don't know who the governor was. I don't know where Joplin even is in Missouri. I think it's in the middle. But, I mean, there was not weeks going by before these people were helped.
Right.
I'm sure feds were in there because I'm sure a national disaster had to be declared. And I know a governor can do that too, but there's different resources and all that when it's federal. And, I'm just kind of baffled at how sometimes you get a Hurricane Katrina and sometimes you get, something completely different. And I can't put my finger on what the deal is with why some things do this and some things don't. I just come back to, what if this were New York City? What if somebody in the media was affected by this? What if this was Martha's Vineyard?
Yeah.
What would be the news coverage? What if, heaven forbid, this were a black neighborhood in Detroit?
Yeah.
Or South Chicago? What do you think the reaction would be? It would be completely
a lot different.
different.
Yep. Absolutely. And it just shows. I mean, and we've read about this, though, in document after document after document for years now, talking about how equity is the most important thing. And we would laugh about it. Oh, since when is the garbage service, not equal? And
they pick up white people's garbage cans first.
Right.
That's why.
But this is what it looks like when you implement this. It looks like, the white people can be forgotten. It's not about raising up people of other cultures. It is about suppressing and not serving the people that disagree with you politically.
Yeah, or tearing down achievers.
Because I would tell you, even a white neighborhood in Los Angeles would probably get the help.
Yeah, probably. I'm guessing you're right, unfortunately. That's what we've become, though. We've become, who are the victims?
Yeah.
Okay. They're on their own. But I'm baffled. I'm baffled by Ohio's response as well. I mean, I'm baffled by, if I'm Governor DeWine, this is the first thing feds, you don't want to do something? I'm going to step in and do something.
Yeah.
I'm going to take over.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to work with the local people. The mayor would be I'd be on the ground there. Don't tell people to go back to, what? I got a better idea. If I were in the Ohio legislature, I would pass a bill requiring Governor DeWine to move there. I mean, seriously, he hasn't set foot there. You go talk to the mayor.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Pick up the damn phone.
Right.
And I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but he seems ho-hum about this or a little hands-off.
People there are a little upset because they have not heard from him.
So I'm as baffled by his response as anybody.
Buttigieg hasn't called either.
But I mean, DeWine can't send somebody down there to test the water? Okay, the EPA's not going to do it. I got my own department here. Hey, guys, get in the car, go down there and test there's thousands of dead fish. Tell me take a fish and dissect it.
Yeah.
You remember biology, don't you? I mean, why is that not going on?
If I were Mike DeWine, I would be taking notes.
I'd be taller.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I would be taking notes from Ron DeSantis. Even
sure.
some of the recent actions of Greg Abbott.
Yeah, Abbott too.
Greg Abbott has not been a man of action per se, but until lately, it seems like he's really stepped up his game, which is good. I would be taking notes from Kristi Noem. I would be looking at these Republican governors that are making a name for themselves because they're actually doing something.
Yeah, I know.
But he's not.
He seems frozen. He seems like a deer in headlights.
He is almost
and
Walls-esque
and
in
Mike
his
DeWine.
response.
And the funny thing about it, it's not like this guy's some rookie politician. This guy was a senator. I mean, he's not some inexperienced guy who's never seen anything bad happen.
But yet the Senator J.D. Vance comes
J.D. Vance.
from Washington, D.C., and he is
on the ground there.
ground.
Fox News had him looking at dead animals. Yeah.
He was stirring a stick in the water, and all this, oily-looking substance comes to the top.
And I didn't see anybody around collecting samples, did you? I didn't see that. Yeah.
No, I did not either.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Where's Sherrod Brown? Where's the other senator there? What's he doing?
Nothing.
I mean, come on. These people didn't vote for you. You still represent them.
Yeah.
Who's the congressman over there? I mean, there's somebody should be. That person should be.
And maybe they are.
They could be. I don't know who it is. I shouldn't. You look it up, Jay. I couldn't espouse that.
Yeah.
But I don't see them on.
There's just too many of them to keep track
Yeah,
of.
I mean, I would hope they're there because whatever vote they're taking just is not that important right now. You can take it again in a week, and pretty soon you can do it virtually. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's scary all around that before you know what's going on, you're telling people to go. And by the way, what about and this would be another thing if there were minorities that live there. Oh, you tell them to evacuate? Well, where are they going to go? They don't have any money. They don't have, so like I said, this isn't a rich town. What are the businesses supposed to do?
Yeah.
I don't
know.
Who's going to go there and buy things and, eat at the restaurants in the town? Who's going to do that?
Yeah, Congressman Bill Johnson, he did tour the train derailment site. He was on the ground 3 days ago, and he was slamming Buttigieg today.
Okay. Sorry, Congressman. I didn't mean to call you out, but okay, fair enough. But I don't. But if I were Congressman Johnson, I mean, I would start introducing bills. I'd do anything I could. Maybe he is. He could be.
Yeah.
But this is just unacceptable on just any kind of level. And you wonder if something like has happened in Minnesota. I mean, you just wonder. I mean, natural disasters or accidents, they happen. I mean,
and we have way more water than they have.
We got
in
more
Ohio.
water than anybody.
And with all of everything's interconnected almost, with streams and creeks and spring fed and it wouldn't be good.
I mean, we can't mine for copper, but no, I'm just kidding. Not to mention the Great Lakes. I mean, let's just not forget how close and Ohio's close. It goes the opposite direction,
right?
But still, it's I mean, Minnesota. I mean that Met Council would be intertwined in anything. I'm sure. So I don't know. I'm just stunned at this, and I am fearful this is going to create a ghost town in this city and in this area because you don't know how long-term effects from this. Have you seen things on Chernobyl ever? Have you watched documentaries and things on that? There are still areas people don't go. Because of that from 1986.
Radiation is too high.
Yeah. I mean, just think. I mean, I know this is not radiation, but when you talk about poisonous gas used in World War I,
yes.
Okay, you don't know the effect that's necessarily going to have in the long term on people.
Right.
You don't know what ingesting small amounts of something in your water can do to you. You're not going to find out that in 2 weeks.
No. That's something that shows up when you're in your 60s,
Yeah.
your 50s, your 60s, your 70s. And all of a sudden, you got cancer, or all of a sudden, something else happens.
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, will this town ever recover?
I don't know. It depends. If this gets into the water supply and it's in the ground, I don't know.
Yeah.
If not, I don't know. Does the rain wash it out? If it washes us out, where does it go?
Well,
It's got to go somewhere.
isn't that how we get acid rain? Doesn't it evaporate and then rain back on us?
I
don't
know.
know. I don't know.
But
I'm sure there's protocols for this, though, with this stuff being shipped. I mean, I'm sure that there's, what if? I'm sure that scenario has been what we would call war gamed. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it has been.
Yeah.
My question is it being implemented? I mean, what's being done? Is somebody down there with a dustbuster trying to clean it up? I mean, there's no evidence that it's being either cleaned up or it's contained in any way. And that's where
there has to be a policy. I mean, if you're running a state government and you haven't figured out, there's a lot of trains that run through here, especially being in the middle of the country, especially being this close to Pittsburgh, where there's a lot of iron and all that. Yeah, what happens if one of those trains comes off the tracks? What do we do? There should be policies.
I'm sure it's happened before.
I'm sure it has. But it looks like being caught flat-footed. How do you? I don't understand it, because there should be, and this is something maybe we need to discuss, especially with local governments. One of our favorite organizations, ICLEI, talks about being resilient, but what they're talking about is climate resiliency. We're talking about actual things that are going to happen, and emergency preparedness, I think, is huge, and you have to take responsibility for your own city, your own county, your own state, and you have to have those emergency preparedness procedures in place. And you have to think about it beforehand. What happens if a train comes off the tracks and it's full of poisonous gas or liquid? What happens if, there's a plane crash into what happens if there's a terrorist attack? What happens? You have to have this stuff. You have to.
Yeah.
Sure. And how are you going to evacuate people? Where are you going to send them? How are you going to take care of them? These are all things that need to be planned for by the state, the county, and the city government. And they need to be able to corroborate, I don't know if that's the right word, but they need to be able to see that their plans aren't going to step all over each other as well. They each have to kind of have their own roles, their own limitations, and that's where we kind of talked about that earlier.
Yeah, it can't be redundant. It can't be duplicative.
Right.
Then you're just stepping on each other's toes the whole time.
Right.
I just wonder, if something happened here in Minnesota. I mean, what? I watched the chaos in Minneapolis.
Yeah. Did they have an emergency plan? Nope.
Remember Amber Fry being asked, what's the plan? And he stood there with a blank stare like somebody kicked him in the stomach.
Yep.
I don't know.
Walls didn't come out of his hole like it was a week before Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, I mean, he pulled a Joe Biden and hid in the basement.
Yeah.
I mean, there might have been a plan there, but I didn't see it followed by anybody.
Yeah.
So you can have all the plans you want. You have to have leaders with the will to enact them, too.
Well, you got to have both, yeah. That's why it's so important to elect a leader and not just a
I will say
shill.
this, though. In Fry's defense,
his
claim is that he asked for the help and it was delayed in getting to him.
Right.
So I don't know if that's true. I'd like to know where our sheriff was. I'd like to know
He was
that.
at the Federal Reserve. We know that. That he took the sheriff's department and they went and guarded the Federal Reserve building. Is that really their job?
Well, got to control that money supply. But is that what he should have been doing?
No.
Where's the scrutiny of that?
Nowhere. Nobody's ever going to scrutinize it, and you're never going to hear about it again unless we bring it up, because hardly anybody reported on it.
I didn't hear that on Channel 5 or Channel 11. Didn't hear Hutchinson ever get asked it by anybody. Yeah, incredible. So you see. So again, you're right though. Ultimately, this stuff has to be what we would call war gamed. I would just call it, preparing for the worst.
Yeah.
But what happens when it happens and you got deer in the headlights
Right.
running the show?
Yeah.
Who picks up the slack?
And
you saw in Minneapolis what a lack of leadership and a lack of taking control did.
Yeah.
It led to looting. It led to crime.
Fires.
It led to police precinct being burned down. It led to, it led to us being the joke of this entire nation.
It's led to a 3-year moral decline.
Yeah.
You don't want to step foot in the city because you don't know if you're going to lose your car or your wallet.
Yeah. That's true.
So
you ain't taking either from me.
Yeah, that's true.
Just to let the criminals know.
So at a local level, and because, we're a show with kind of a local bent, what can cities do to be more prepared? Because, there are financial limits that cities have. There are resource limitations that cities have. There are personnel limitations that cities have. How can cities plan, and really to a degree counties as well, for these types of events? And what do they need to do to be on sure footing?
Well, I think the first and foremost, don't rely on the state of the feds.
Yeah.
You're right. There is they are limited in some aspects in what they can do or have the capacity to do.
True.
I would also say what stops one county from working with the county next to them and saying, hey, you know what? F the state and the feds. Something happens over here, we got to talk to each other. We got to share. We got to, you got a water unit and a canine unit. Can we borrow them because we don't have that?
Yep.
We have this and you don't. So if you need that, we'll cross-coordinate that. Cities, same thing. We talk about shared services all the time.
Right.
Contracting that between another. Okay, I got a small police force here because I only have 1,000 people. We don't have a lot of crime. But something happens, I got to be able to call you, Sheriff Coltrane, or you, township or mayor next to me.
Yeah.
Hey, can I borrow because I need it now? And then you need leaders who will make quick, decisive decisions and not make them political, not make them worrying about how they look or what their political future is.
Yeah.
And I think at most levels, we don't have that. You look at a city level, so many of them are part-time. People who read their packets and go to meetings, they rely on the quote unquote professionals to do that stuff. And that, again, to me, that's backwards, that the council should be doing that to the staff, not the staff dictating to the councils.
Right.
So a change in attitude there has to happen. That no. This ain't a part-time gig.
Yeah.
There's a disaster here. Okay, I'm not relying on the city manager to, who's an administrator. They're not, So
But I think these things have to be really clear and detailed as well to prevent abuses, like Golden Valley with their 17 police officers out of 31. Hey, we've got a shared agreement with Crystal, so we're not gonna hire anymore.
Yeah,
and if we're short, we'll just call for Crystal cops to come, because that's not their job.
Yeah, but it's also Crystal's job to say,
right,
we're not bailing you out.
We ain't coming for, yeah.
But another thing you're making the case for is a charter city, because if you look at Minneapolis, they have written in their charter a ratio.
Yeah.
That they are supposed to have. They've been violating this charter for years.
Because it's well below the
and it has been.
amount.
It was that way before the George Floyd incident, by the way. Not as drastic, but it was still there.
Right.
And so, their own charter's not being enforced.
Right. And here's where when we're talking specifically about like maybe a rail into the, poison into the water type event, every county in Minnesota has a water
soil and
water conservation district. Except Hennepin County is not elected; it is appointed by the county. So there's really no accountability there. I don't know how they get the special favor.
No idea.
But this is something where you've almost got to work with that group to come up with a plan. I mean, you could invite that group in. Okay, how are we going to work, when there's an issue with our soil, with our water, when you have, you can have police chiefs get together and war game and hash things out. And I think that is way better than waiting for the state to respond, because when your boots on the ground, you're going to be the fastest response that there is. If something happens in your city, you're going to be able to handle it a lot faster. The state is always going to be slower, always. If you can respond in minutes, the county's going to respond in hours, and the state's going to respond in days. And as we found out, the federal government's going to respond within weeks
or decades.
So it's important to be able to say, okay, what are the first steps? Let's say something happens. What do we do? Okay. And if we need to call on this city, like you said, we need to call on this township or vice versa, we can do that. Here's what that looks like. How do we mobilize? How do we mobilize our people? How do we evacuate? How do we, you've got to be able to do this, because if you don't, you're leaving yourself open to have disaster come, and it may never come, but that's awesome. I mean, that you'd prefer that, but if it does, you have to be prepared for it.
Yeah, you always hope, but there's Murphy's Law, and that's, you don't see it coming.
Right.
It's going to hit you. The least prepared place is going to get nailed. It just is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I come back to this. Who cleans this crap up? Where does it go when it's cleaned up? I'd like to know that.
Yeah.
Was it going to landfill in Nevada?
I don't know. I mean, how much dirt do you have to take out if it's in the soil?
And let me ask you a question, too. What do we need this poisonous gas for? What is that used for, I wonder?
I don't know. That is a great question, because, it's
owned by somebody, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are they using it for? Are we sending this to Putin?
I don't think so.
What do you use that stuff for? I can't remember what it was called, but
vinyl chloride.
Yeah, but I mean, what's that used for? Who's using that? Where was it heading? Again, I'm not blaming capitalism here. I'm just
right. I'm sure it has to be used in something. I'll look it up here. What is vinyl chloride used for? Because that is a great question. I think it's a legitimate question. Why are they transporting this all across the country? Obviously, it was a poison used in World War I, but, like that helps. It's primarily used to make polyvinyl chloride, which cancer.gov says is a hard resin used to make plastic products like pipes, packaging materials, wire, and cable coatings. It is produced as a combustion product in tobacco smoke as well. Well, that's another reason to smoke if I ever heard one.
Golly.
Yeah. So there you go. It's in plastics and tobacco products.
Huh.
Yeah.
Smoking plastic.
Yes. It's worse than drinking bleach.
Probably.
Yes.
I don't know. Like I said, the federal government never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah. Yeah, it continues to stoop to levels that amaze me as well.
But I think the lesson, unfortunately, that we're not taking from this is how you cannot rely on government. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's...
Even government can't rely on government.
Exactly, but the answer to this, somebody will propose more government.
Yeah.
oh, well, we just need to do this and have more money and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, no, that's the exact wrong way to see this. I see it as government can't, grab their rear end with both hands. That's what I see it as.
Yeah.
Why is this a call for more? Like, I watched Hurricane Katrina. Okay.
Yes.
And it was a mess. And I think it was a mess partly because you had incompetent people running New Orleans.
Yeah.
Nobody took charge of anything. Then the feds come in and try to. It was just. I think the hurricane happened so quick too. It was on the city so fast. Clearly, everybody couldn't get out of there or whatever. I don't know, but it went on for days and weeks and months, and it's like, okay, what is going on here? And from that, you think, and I hate saying this, but you think some good could come from, that we'd learned something.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just learned to be more incompetent.
Yes.
That's what we've learned.
That is true.
So,
yes, we have.
and who was the guy there? School Bus Nagin, right?
Right.
It was just, we don't learn from this stuff, and we're going to get bigger government's going to be the result. Every time there's a disaster, somebody's there to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Never let a crisis go to waste. That's the motto of big government.
That is the motto of big government. If they didn't plan it, if they didn't execute it, at least take advantage of it.
And who knows if they didn't or not. I don't put nothing past government anymore. I'll tell you what. COVID has got me so paranoid. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, I've questioned everything.
Yeah.
I waffled on the Kennedy assassination for a long time. And
it's pretty clear the CIA was involved to some level.
Whether Oswald was with them or not, Oswald was clearly guilty.
Yep, absolutely.
But the case against him is overwhelming. But I don't know. I used to be a conspiracy guy there. Then I went away. I read a great book by a guy named Gerald Posner, who believed Oswald acted alone, and his book is great. It's called Case Closed.
Yeah,
it's really good. But I've walked back a little bit. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think anybody helps Sirhan, but I don't know. It's like you can't. Everything you once believed in, you can't believe in anymore. Or maybe you could never from the beginning.
Yeah.
We just didn't know. I don't know.
Well, I think that is kind of the last domino to fall. I mean, we had trust in our military. We had trust in the FBI. We had trust to some degree in our government to at least do what's best for us on a grand scale. And I think all of that's been shattered. We can't trust our military. We can't trust the FBI. We can't trust our government to do right by us, whether in the small things or the big things. We can't trust they're telling us the truth. We can't trust that they're not hiding things. We can't trust it.
Chances are they're lying.
Yeah.
If I had to place a bet on whether I'm getting the truth from government or not, I would put it on a lie. 99% of the time.
If they ain't lying, they ain't trying.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like the Green Bay Packers, they ain't cheating, they ain't trying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I just, if I had to guess, I always just think to myself, okay, what am I not being told? That's just my first gut reaction to anything.
Now, I will say, in the defense of that, there are certain things you don't tell the public.
Yes. But again.
But those are not that many things.
Okay, I don't want the public where our nuclear bombs are.
Yeah,
that shouldn't be disclosed.
No.
Okay.
If there's a covert action happening to take down something.
Look, we have here's the thing. Our government has a plan to invade Canada.
Yeah.
If I'm not saying it would ever be implemented. There's a plan.
Yeah.
Somewhere in a drawer.
It was in that true to life movie, Canadian Bacon, right?
Yeah,
with
it was
John
in
Candy.
an episode of Family Ties too. I mean, there is a plan, but I mean, the point being that there are things that need to be government does keep secrets, and they should.
Yeah,
but it should never be to the idea that what they consider a classified document, has got to have again, you have a situation where government gets to regulate government. They get to decide what the definition of that
Yep.
is, if it widens or contracts,
Yep.
what can be redacted and what can't. 50 years later, 60 years later, 100 years later, 300 years later.
Yeah.
And we still don't know what's been done in our name. And,
Absolutely.
it's just, I don't know what to say about it. It's got me just baffled.
Yeah, well, and we've seen it, and we've seen this country do terrible, 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 terrible things. We've also seen it do very good things, and it's not time to say sayonara, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's step back for a minute. Let's evaluate, how to right this ship, and let's.
Yeah, the country's great, even if the people who are running it aren't. I mean, the ideal of America is what
that's exactly
so
it.
many people still believe
America
in, including me.
Is an ideal. It's not as much a place as it is an ideal, and it's the pursuit of those ideals that make it worth it, I think.
And that's always such the key word, pursuit.
Yeah.
The pursuit. It's interesting what words were used. The pursuit of life, liberty, and whatever else it was. I'm just kidding. No, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In other words, you're not guaranteed anything here.
Right.
You're guaranteed freedom, and that's where it stops. But like I say, Jay, I don't know where it unravels. I mean, I don't even know when I become governor. I don't even know where to start with that stuff because it's so ingrained. I feel like you just, to a degree, you have to join them to under. I don't know. I'm beginning to think I don't want the job.
Yeah.
I mean, the state needs me, but I just, beginning to think, God, the pension's just not worth it. I mean, it's just not worth it. And do you have security your whole life?
I don't know if you do as a governor.
I hope not. I doubt it. I mean, Jesse Ventura, I think he travels with a bunch of...
No.
Yeah, I don't think
Probably not. He gets his frogman buddies and
I don't know. I don't know if he's on good terms with all those guys anymore.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I mean, Jesse's one of those guys who's burned every relationship he's ever had. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I used to ride with the biggest outlaw biker gang in the state of California, the Mongols. We were mostly Vietnam veterans, forgotten by our government here, lied to every chance. Every time they opened their mouth, they were lying to us. So we just sat around, rode our motorcycles, and kept oil cans in the living room. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I always, one of my favorite Jesse Ventura moments was when he said that he wanted to run for governor, and my wife looked at me and said, "You are the warrior." I'll never forget that. That was great. I loved it. Oh. So, yeah, look, hey, hell in a handbasket, maybe you got to join them. I'm just saying, maybe we got to think about that.
Nah.
Why don't we just join the globalists for a while and maybe we'll infiltrate somewhere.
Nope.
I'm willing to do it. Pay me enough money, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
It'll all be worthless anyway, so I might as well get as much as I can.
Well, there is truth in that.
By the way, I'm waiting for Republicans to start those hearings on the Fed pumping out money. Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, they're coming, right?
Right.
Yeah, just
They're
like those,
coming.
yeah.
I'm sure. They're right around the corner any day now.
All right, Jay.
Yes.
You want to say something better than what we've said?
Sure.
Or try to?
I'll give it my best.
Okay, I know that was rough to hear, and you people in you Palestinians over there in Ohio. I mean, I pray for you. I really do. It's a mess. But styling, profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jay, please take it away. That rhymed.
Yeah, that was good. You're like the second coming of the Fink. All right.
I got hair, though.
You do have hair. That's true. Well, yeah, that's a rough one. But lately, it's been a lot of rough ones. Just that government seems to keep outdoing itself in how bad it is and how bad it can get. But you know what? This country was founded on a rugged individualism. And I think that's really what we're getting down to today. Now, our dependence should be on God to meet all of our needs. But that doesn't mean that we don't prepare. It doesn't mean that we don't take steps to make sure that we put ourselves in a position to use the wisdom and knowledge that we have to come up with a plan so that God doesn't have to pull us out of the fiery furnace unless it's unavoidable. I think that's really what it comes down to. You know, there are so many things that are unavoidable, but we just choose to not pay so much attention. Just allow it to let it ride. But this rugged individualism here in the United States, I think we've kind of lost touch with that, where we take responsibility at an individual level for what goes on in our lives. And we prepare ourselves to the best of our ability to be able to rise to any occasion, to provide for ourselves, to be prepared for an emergency, to provide for our families in a way where we know that there's a legacy for them to follow, where the next generation is going to be better off than our generation. I hate to say it, but I think my generation has largely fell down on their responsibility to their children to leave a better world for them. Instead, we are part and parcel to helping create this dystopia I mentioned at the beginning of the show. Sure, we might have the dystopian president in office right now, but it's only because we have allowed it to happen. Because we don't pay attention and we just go in and vote the party line and we come out and everything just falls to pieces because we didn't understand what we were voting for. So let us start with you. Let's say there's something in your house, in your household, under your roof. Do you have some sort of a medical directive for yourself, for a spouse, for kids? Do you have money saved up for an emergency if you can? Are you trying to pay down debt? Or are you just loading up and buying all sorts of stuff you can't afford and not knowing how you're going to cash the checks? Are you making sure that you're able to protect yourself if an intruder comes in your home? Do you have the means to do that? Do you have food on hand in case, for some reason, you can't get to the grocery store? Do you have water on hand in case something like this happens and you can't drink the water? Do you? That's where it starts. And then once we're looking at a city level, what kind of plans do you have in place? Let's say no help comes from the state. Let's say no help comes from the county. Let's say that you're like these folks in Ohio, and no help's coming. What are you going to do? You've got to have a plan. You cannot be caught flat-footed because that is not going to serve your people. And maybe you need to put your heads together with mayors of cities from the surrounding area. Maybe you need to get together with the county, the county soil and water conservation district. Maybe you need to have your police chief talk to the sheriff. There are things that can be done. Because like I said before, you're minutes away from a response. The county's hours away. The state is days away. And the feds are at least, they're weeks away from responding. You cannot wait for that. You've been entrusted the people that you represent. So you've got to be ready. You've got to have plans Because if one person dies under your watch, that is one person too many. Now, is that unavoidable sometimes? Absolutely. But it's avoidable far more times than it's unavoidable. It just takes doing the right thing. And it takes that sense of personal responsibility. And when I'm talking about rugged individualism, I am really talking about a sense of responsibility for others, where you do what's right by the people you're responsible for. And if they're not doing it, if the people above you aren't doing it, you got to make sure you got your house in order. You take the responsibility. You be ready. That's what it comes down to. You be ready. And if the people that you elected aren't ready, it's time to elect new people. And maybe you're one of them. Maybe that's part of the solution, is for you to step up into a place where you can govern. Because when you're able to govern and make decisions, and you're able to go to your constituents and say, here's what's happening, I can't get the rest of the council to go with me, can't get the rest of the board to go with me. Does your school district know what to do if there's an active shooter? Because a lot of them get caught not knowing what to do. They have locked the doors of their rooms and hide or try to get out an emergency exit. There has to be a plan with local police so that what happened in Uvalde, Texas doesn't happen to your school. This is what I mean. You've got to take responsibility. If no one else does it, make sure you've taken responsibility. We have to change the tide in America. We have to stand up, and we have to take our country back. And we do that by having a plan, by taking responsibility for ourselves, for our family, for our church family, for our city, for our school district, for our county, for our state, for our region, for our nation, for our world. We have to take responsibility. If no one else is going to have the answers, we're going to have the answers, and we're going to know what at least to do for us. The best answers are always closest to home. And that's why the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. was supposed to be so important, because it was supposed to represent us at the local level. That is why city councils are so important. That is why county boards are so important. That's why school districts are so important, because they can affect change the quickest. But so much of it has been wrapped up in policies and procedures where St. Paul gets their fingers in locally, where the feds get their fingers in locally, where we've taken the free money and the hooks are in the mouth. We need to free ourselves up. We need to do this differently. We need to make a sick patient very healthy. That is only done through the hard work of righting what has been wrong. It's not immediate. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. That I promise you. So if you want to get in the fight, you want to know how to do something, let us help you. Get a hold of us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. We're here. We're in this fight. It ain't over. Not even close. But we need you. We love you, Minnesota. But now it's your turn to get to work.